Hello?
Can I come in?
Oh, sure. Come on in. Why don't you come in and sit down and we can have a conversation.
Great. You know, Jeffrey, when you invited me to your home to talk about this, I had no idea that you were living on the Mystery of Irma Vepset in T2.
Well, sometimes it does feel like we live here
It
at
does.
the theater.
Lots of times.
Before we get started, Christy and I are often known for making silly videos, so depending on your point of view, this is either the silliest or perhaps the saddest video we've ever done. We wanted to go into more detail about why we're in a financial crisis and why the urgent need to give is so urgent, and maybe dispel any rumors. Some patrons and donors have reached out to us wanting more information, and rightfully so. There's only so much we can convey in a social media post or a letter. And speaking of donors, one thing I want to make very clear. Theater 3 and most arts organizations in town have some fantastic donors and champions of the arts.
Yeah,
We
so
do.
lucky to know them. Yeah.
And we're so fortunate to receive their love and support and resources, all of those things. But recently and in the past couple of years, it hasn't been enough, and so it's been very difficult for us. What I've been telling people, and get ready, this is not a short soundbite video. This is just a conversation. It might be boring to some people, but for those of you who want more information, that's what we're trying to do. What I've been telling people in general, there's three big reasons, and most of them are familiar to all arts organizations. Some challenges are unique to us. One of the big ones, it's perhaps one of our greatest strengths, but it's also one of our biggest weaknesses. We have a fantastic facility with 2 theaters and a beautiful lobby. It is extremely expensive for us to be here. It is part of the burden, and I think sometimes when people visit Theater 3 and they see the new lobby that we didn't pay for, the company that now owns the Quadrangle built that for us. We were very thankful and very excited. It was something they had to do for them to be able to do some of their other construction projects here, and so we were the benefit of that. But when people walk through, I think a lot of people go, "Wow, Theater 3 is doing pretty good." Maybe
Yeah.
they don't need as much financial support with this fantastic lobby and 2 theaters, and because I know so many other arts organizations don't have that.
Yeah. I tell people we present big, we present richer. We're space rich, but we are money poor, like the old families.
Yeah. And one of the things we've been doing and will continue to do more of, which is part of the plan to help us get past this financial hardship, is we are more and more other arts organizations and just different groups are utilizing our space. Of course, we're charging rent for that.
But I also want to say that we work with every organization so that they don't pay what they can't pay. Did that sound correct?
Sure.
Yeah, like anybody who comes to us who needs space to perform or to workshop or to develop, we work with them to figure out a price that they can afford to use our space. So it's not like we also charge exorbitant amount of money for other organizations to be here. And I think that's something that we're very proud of. That's something that's important to me and Jeffrey, that we share this space. We have this resource and we want to make it available to other people, because that's why we stay here, because space is something that is rare in Dallas for performance groups. And so it's difficult when you are given the choice of like, okay, well, you have this space, why don't you just leave? Because it's not so easy to find another space. So we end up working really, really, really hard to stay where we are.
And we often make some revenue off of concession sales for some of the organizations that can't pay a lot to be here. But it has become a good income generator for us, much more than it was in the past. And one of the possible solutions moving forward is we're going to increase that, maybe even look towards finding some more permanent partners to share the space with. But in the end, people, if you've talked to me once about this building, you've heard me talk about how many air conditioners we have to maintain,
Oh my
how many
gosh.
toilets we have to maintain, and all that is on us. That's
And
not.
we've cleaned all of them.
We have cleaned all of them. The number of times I've crawled on the roof to look at an air conditioner.
Oh my goodness! The number of times we've been like, "Where's Jeffrey?" and someone says, "Oh, he's on the roof." Okay.
But it's a lot to maintain, and because we have it 365 days a year, we have to figure out ways to program all of those days and pay for all of those days. So,
Yeah.
But that's been one of the biggest burdens and challenges.
I think it's also another reason that people like see a full season or like that we're constantly doing something, and they might feel like, oh, they have so much money to be producing all these things, and it's not completely true. If we don't keep producing, we can't be making money.
Yeah.
And so we have to constantly be producing. We have to constantly be doing something in the building. Otherwise, we can't be here, and it's exhausting for our tiny staff.
And tiny staff indeed.
Yeah.
To manage everything that goes on here, our staff is very small. Everybody
Mighty, but
mighty. We all have more than one job here. No one has one single job. We're filling and covering, and even then, it's a bit of a house of cards. If we lose one person, it becomes a huge burden on us.
Yeah.
But I will say, a lot of our organizations very smartly reduce the number of performances or the number of weeks they're performing, which makes a lot of sense in many ways, and you pack people in. That's not something necessarily we can do because we have to keep this thing going 365 days a year.
Right.
So often, and this leads into the second big thing that has affected us financially, but you look at our house, and sometimes it's a small house. It doesn't mean we're selling less tickets necessarily than other organizations. They're just spread out amongst more performances.
right.
In the end, though, we are not selling enough tickets. Theater 3 historically, and this has been something we've been trying to remedy, but it's slow going. Theater 3 is even more reliant on ticket sales than other organizations because of a lack of fundraising, grant writing, things like that. And just historically, that's something that Theater 3 relied on. But as you know, as everybody knows, that dynamic, that the who is buying tickets, how they are buying tickets, how they are selecting what they are seeing has changed. It was changing before the pandemic. It drastically changed after the pandemic. And everybody out there is trying to get a grasp on how to address that.
Yeah, it's a different world, and trying to catch up with it. This has also been kind of like a slow motion snowball effect for us also, that, started, I guess, I don't know, you've been here longer than I have, but the pandemic changed everything for us. And when we were in lockdown, we had to really pivot quickly and figure out how we were going to continue. And we got over that hump, and then we had all of this construction going on around us, and we got over that hump. But all of these little things have been accumulating, and we've been like running.
Yeah, and it's death by a thousand cuts. Speaking of construction, for those of you who are around, know we struggled to get Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf open because we were trying to get our certificate of occupancy amongst all the construction that was happening, and that kept getting delayed for various reasons. Mm-hmm. But what that meant for us, and in the end we have a beautiful lobby, but what that meant for us is Virginia Woolf, that cost us, I forget the exact number, but that show cost us probably $50,000 to $60,000 to produce. Then we only got 2 public performances.
Yeah.
Because of the delays in getting our certificate of occupancy and some other things. And granted, that was 4 years ago, but all of those things accumulate when you lose money like that. And speaking about audiences and getting people in to see shows, if you've been attending shows, you heard me early in the season that we almost doubled our subscription sales this season. And that's true. That is very true.
It is.
And very exciting. But that still hasn't filled all of the seats. Mm-hmm. And in my view, this maybe isn't a hard data fact, but what I'm seeing and what I think I'm seeing is that ticket buyers now, the people don't necessarily just go to the theater because that's a thing they do. They're going to see a very specific thing they want to see. Mm-hmm. It's more consumer based than it is arts patron in many ways. And we're finding ways to address that and deal with that. But what that means is they're going to see this show in the season because that's something that they are interested in. But something they might not be familiar with, they're not gonna see, and that's something we're addressing and dealing with. But that's part of the new problem.
Yeah, and the other thing that feeds into that is that we are not a theater. We're not one of the theaters in town that has like a specific niche, right? We are a theater for everybody. So Jeffrey and I have to be very careful and very cognizant of the season that we are choosing, so that there's something for everybody in our community. It used to be easier to do that.
Yeah.
It used to be easier to point to a play that had won a Pulitzer or that had won a Drama Desk or something and go, that's going to be good, that's going to bring people in. And we just can't do that anymore. And that's not just us, that's everybody. But it's a little bit more complicated when you are not a theater that is known for just one thing.
The third and final big of the three big things that have been affecting us financially, I alluded to it a little earlier, is Theater 3 has always struggled on the fundraising and grant writing side. And there's lots of reasons for that. I don't think it's necessarily worth getting into. And it's something we have been slowly addressing. And it continues to improve. But because that lags behind, that double punch of a decline in ticket sales recently and not as much of a robust fundraising mechanism, those two things combined really affects. We have been working privately behind the scenes to solve the financial crisis, and we've been doing that for a long time. And it's why this came as, I think, a surprise for a lot of people. We've held off going public as long as we could because, one, it's frankly embarrassing.
It's difficult to admit.
And you go, I don't think anyone's going to care. We're going to announce that, and no one's going to care.
It's a little bit of an existential crisis. It's a little bit of a spiraling,
So yesterday, it was yesterday now that we announced, we were sort of blown away by the immediate response from so many people.
The amount of people that have reached out to us, not just via social media or other, but personally, like the number of people that have reached out to me personally and to Jeffrey personally, it means a lot to us. It means a lot to us, so that, of course, we don't want the worst thing to happen, but no matter what happens, we know that there are people out there who do care about this institution. I have been reading so many stories and so many anecdotes from people here in town across the board, not just actors, but people who attend the theater, people who do ancillary work around the theater, of how much this particular organization means to them and to their career, like what it's done for them, how it inspired them to see more theater or to do more theater, or it helped them in their job, or it's astounding. It's astounding, and it breaks my heart. If I can get a little personal, it breaks my heart to think that that will be gone. Because, like I've said before, it's not just the work that we do on stage that we truly believe we are getting right. We know the art is good. Everybody that we invite here to work is an amazing artist. It's not just that. It's all of those other things that will be lost. The high school students that get to come and watch shows here for free and make connections to professionals, and they get to network. The people who have been coming here for years to watch shows that have a history because they came with their parents or their grandparents or whatever. The other groups that will not have affordable access to a space where they can work. The playwrights that won't have accessible space for them to workshop. It's not just us. It's a larger community in Dallas that will lose if this place is gone.
And I think the final thing I want to say, which ties into this in a really sort of interesting way or surprising way, I guess, we are so good at stretching a dollar. Mm-hmm. It's not like suddenly last month we were like, oh, we're in a financial crisis, we need to find ways to cut costs. We have been doing that and doing that and doing that. It's why, I know patrons are upset that they don't get programs, printed programs. Like, it's just a big expense. It was something to cut before we start cutting jobs and people. We all, like I said, do multiple jobs. And what that means is sometimes you'll see Christie as a director and a designer on the same show. I'm doing 2 separate designs for Xanadu right now.
Our associate producer, Sarah, takes on props a lot of the time. And we have serious conversations about this when we're planning the seasons and hiring our casts. Like, we do talk about, like, how is that going to affect designers in the community that we can't hire?
Yeah.
And it's sad to us and it worries us, but at the same time, we need to still be here so we can hire those people in the future. And sometimes it means that Jeffrey and me and other staff members have to take on a lot of the work.
Last season, when the books were done, versus the budget that was created, we had cut $100,000 in costs from the production budget. The production budget meaning the stuff that we use, the money we spend to make productions. And we cut that on the backs of the staff and really generous artists in the community that helped us. So what that means, though, when we're all taking care of all of the jobs, we're not able to offer those jobs to other artists in the community.
And it hurts, because that's my favorite part. It really is. That's my favorite part of what it is to serve as an associate artistic director or artistic director, is to create opportunities and to foster new talent and to invite people in.
I often joke that we won't get in trouble for embezzlement. We're going to get in trouble for reverse embezzlement. So there you go. That was very long, but it was purposefully long. We wanted to try to be as transparent and explain further for people who had questions, because some donors had questions before they wanted to give.
So do you want to talk about the good news that we received today, Jeffrey?
No, you do. I've been talking forever.
Oh, well, I mean, we did get some good news today. We have raised a lot of what we need towards our goal, but we're not there by any stretch of the imagination. But we did receive a donation from an anonymous donor who has offered to match all gifts up to $100,000 by the end of this month.
A complete surprise.
Complete surprise.
This was not a planned matching gift.
My jaw dropped when we got the news. It was incredible. I almost fainted at my desk. And so we've been kind of like scrambling and trying to get everybody who is a stakeholder this news so that they can encourage other people to give and donate and help as much as they can. So that's great. So if you haven't, and you can a little bit, every little penny helps us. The other way to help us is to buy tickets to the shows. Buy tickets to the shows. Come see the shows. Xanadu is going to be incredible. Irmavep closes this weekend, but if you can make it to Irmavep, please come see these 2 maestros do a tour de force performance of this show. What else?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you're doing, reaching out, all the love, and of course, your donations.